Now it's time for Movie Friends with your hosts Michelle and Seth. We're talking film without pretension. We're finding cats that are unexpected. We'll watch a movie, film, or schmovie, and we want you to join our journey. So subscribe and share this podcast, or this might just be the last of the Movie Friends. We're movie friends. We want to be your movie friends.
Welcome to New Release Review, part of the Movie Friends podcast. My name is Seth. Today, we are talking about The Phoenician Scheme from 2025, directed by Wes Anderson. We will be discussing spoilers throughout this entire episode, so if you have not yet seen The Phoenician Scheme, and it's important to you for it to not be spoiled, please do not listen to this. Turn it off, go watch the movie, and then come back and listen. My guest for today is Aidan. She is a cinephile and writer. Aidan, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. The sun is still out, which is always great. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate the time of year when you can get out of work and it's still daytime.
Yeah, not having to just go from darkness to darkness.
Yes. Yeah. Ooh, from darkness to darkness. It's the name of my autobiography. Aidan, I appreciate you've shown up in a t-shirt that is very similar to the Brat album cover, but it simply says movie.
Yes, Super Yucky put these out last summer. Not just the
Very
Brat summer,
cool.
it's a movie summer. And
That's right.
And now she's saying it's a Joachim Trier summer, so...
Yeah. Yeah, I screen grabbed the Cronenberg summer.
Yeah.
And I'm holding on to it, yeah. Now, this movie that we're talking about today, The Phoenician Scheme, you had picked to do this one.
Yes, I did.
Can you please walk us through your history with Wes Anderson, why you picked this movie out of everything coming out this year? How did we get here?
So, I became a cinephile because I was getting tired of not having seen movies and people going, "Oh my god, you haven't seen this?" And I had been wanting to get into Wes Anderson for years. And so I just decided to be like, I'm going to finally hit some of these blind spots and just start watching his movies. And I didn't do it in any particular order. I just started. And I think I watched Grand Budapest Hotel, Moonrise Kingdom, but then I was watching French Dispatch. That was the first time I'd ever seen an anthology film. That was the first time I'd see a film that had animation mixed in with the live action that wasn't like Mary Poppins or a Disney thing. The first time I'd seen a film that was doing alternating between black and white and color. And this is where the nested narrative really hit me, because I had seen stories with frames before, like Frankenstein has that, and that I'd seen Grand Budapest Hotel, but this the way it was structured, I had never seen a film like it, and it just kind of blew my mind. And it was the straw that broke the camel's back, and then I was trying to watch as many movies as possible. French Dispatch is what made me fall in love with cinema.
That's pretty great to hear. One, because you're much younger than me. And I'm always so excited to hear about how young people get into movies. A lot of people want people to come to movies the same way that they did,
Mm-hmm.
and they think it's very silly for Man of Steel to be the first movie that you saw in theaters that really got you excited, right? That sucks. But you know what? For many people, it was the first Star Wars movie or Die Hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what kind of opened the door in your mind, where as you sat there, you realized oh, this art form can do something to me.
Yeah.
So one, I like that. And two, I love the French Dispatch, and I've seen so many people just not like it for some of the reasons that you just mentioned. And personally, it's the only one of Wes's movies that have made me cry.
Yeah.
And it was Jeffrey Wright.
Yes.
Giving his monologue on the stage of the TV show.
Yep.
And I just was like, just very overcome with what he was saying, how he was saying it, just every part of it.
Yeah.
I just cried like a baby.
And I love the way Wes has his characters communicate. It feels very like if someone is lying or not being direct, the audience is aware of that and why. It feels like no one's hiding anything from me, which, as an autistic person, like it feels like a very safe place for like if I had to communicate in a world where everyone communicated like Wes Anderson characters, I would be fine. And
Right,
it just his movies feel very comfortable for me in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I love to hear that. I love to hear how different movies and different voices speak to people.
Mm-hmm.
There are filmmakers that I love, two that I love in particular that fit into this point. Agnes Varda and Ingmar Bergman,
Mm-hmm.
where both of them have a varied output over their career.
Yeah.
You know, they did not stick to form as much as Wes Anderson does.
Yeah.
But I can hear like Varda's voice through the documentaries and the shorts and different narrative movies. Same thing with Bergman, and their voices speak to me in like the exact same way. Like I'm like, oh, this is a world that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the way that their characters communicate. This like to me, their movies feel like reality.
Yeah.
Okay, so Phoenician Scheme. I watched this last Thursday, 2 p.m. middle of the day. I have a job, I swear, but this is just when I was able to get to it. There was a lot of people there for Tuesday. I will be honest, I did not love this one. Same way that I really liked Asteroid City and really liked French Dispatch, but I smiled most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw this last night.
How did you find it?
So I saw it with two friends. One of my friends has a loud laugh, and he was laughing a lot. There was a lot of laughing a lot. I was laughing a lot. Um, I think it's like middle of the road for Wes Anderson for me, but it is, I think, his funniest.
Interesting.
I
Okay.
I felt like it didn't like after I rewatched Asteroid City this past week, and there not that there wasn't heart in this one, but the heart in this one just didn't hit the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I missed the mystery boxy aspect that like Asteroid City had, and the form that French Dispatch had. Like it was more straightforward, but I was missing the formulary weirdness he does.
Yeah. I think for me, going into Asteroid City post COVID and lockdown, it
Mm-hmm.
was close enough to the reality that we had all gone
Yes.
through, but different enough that I could still enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a spin. It's like, hey, let's take all these people and put them in one spot and they
Yeah.
can't leave. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. With the Phoenician Scheme, I'm curious if future generations will love this movie more than us, because for me, and please do not yell at me
Yeah.
in your car or turn off the show. We'll explore this idea, but for me, Benicio del Toro playing a basically like international criminal who also manipulates the stock market and politics, that's a little too close to the reality that we're living in.
Yeah, it kind of. I had the thought while watching it, like it kind of felt like I was watching Logan Roy grow a conscience.
Interesting.
Not that Logan Roy ever would have, but it felt like I was watching that happen.
Yeah, I want to be very clear. I love movies about bad people and conflicting people. I don't think the person that we're following needs to be good. I think that a lot of times we trick ourselves into believing that what is in the frame is good and worth rooting for. I understand all that, so I'm not saying that. And I also think that Del Toro is doing really good here. I really enjoyed watching him. The close-ups on his face of
and
just,
his physicality with all of the near-death experiences.
Yeah, I liked that. And I remember Benicio del Toro from many, many moons ago when he was like, super hot international actor guy. And now it's nice that he's kind of playing someone who's his own age and going through a later phase of life, understanding what his choices have led to and the effects that it's had on his daughter and his children. So I always I like when actors get to play their own age and look their own age. And Del Toro looks gnarly in this movie.
Yes, he just, from that opening scene and just so many injuries.
How'd you feel when that guy got blown up?
I it had me like lean back. Like I was like, oh, we're really in it. And I always love seeing Steve Park, so it was great to see him.
They gave him mouthfuls to put out in that one short scene that we're with him in. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that was a lot to deliver in a short amount of time.
Yeah, my one of my best friends is like, "Did you think he was Mikey Yamagita?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's because it is." He's having a good year. He's also in Mickey 17. He was in Death of a Unicorn, which I haven't seen yet, but he's in that, and I'm like, good for him.
So I already mentioned, like, this is not one that I really loved. You said it's kind of middle of the road for you. For me, I guess it was like when the story is revealed, like, what are we actually doing here? And it's, hey, we're going to go globetrot and meet all of these different investors and try to get them to cover the amount of money that we're now going to have to put out to finish this thing. I just really felt like my interest drop at that. And I was really trying to stay in it, but I was like, oh, I'm not that interested in this. And then when they kept repeating certain things with each different person that they met with, like each person had a scene where they just yelled at each other and you can't tell what anyone's saying. And I was like,
Yeah, like what is it trying to say that there's that much repetition? It's like, are all these interactions, do they always turn out the same so often? And that these are the kind of interactions that Zsa Zsa's been having his whole life. These are the interactions he's been prioritizing, and not the interactions with his family.
Right.
And so he's been living this yell at each other, maybe resolve something, but not resolve it all the way, keep going.
Yeah, and it's like he knows how to play pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
And one thing that I did like is that there's enough evidence given for us to know that he's playing them without him having to like explain to one of the characters, like, yeah, I did this because of this, and I knew his blood type, and so, and I purposefully took the bullet for this guy, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was, I did like that we didn't have like a kind of tying it all up, wrapping it together. But like you said, he spent all this time building these relationships and this business, but then with his own kids, he can't keep them from like shooting crossbows at him.
Flaming crossbows.
In that way, and I guess over the whole thing, this kind of felt like a spiritual retread of Royal Tenenbaums, where we're having this dude who's just really a not lovely man kind of reckon with his life and his family and his decisions.
And like
But
Life Aquatic a bit too.
sure, yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. Wes has looked at fatherhood, I mean, really going back to Rushmore.
Yeah.
Had a lot to do with older men, younger men,
Mm-hmm.
fathers who aren't good, fathers who don't want their own kids.
Mm-hmm.
I always, Bill Murray in Rushmore is just like so disinterested in his twins, and he doesn't understand them, and so he latches on to Max, and Max latches on to him despite having a really nice dad. And so yeah, it's like it's an idea that we've seen him explore kind of over and over again.
Yeah.
And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I kind of noted, I was like, I
It's
think
just,
that
why is he retreading that same ground again and again?
yeah, like this, like specifically with Jaja and Royal Tenenbaum, I was like, it almost feels like the same guy.
Mm-hmm. One thing that did annoy me is the lack of clarity on what this whole scheme is for. Like, I know there's a canal, there is
Yep.
a railroad, there is
Yeah.
a hydroelectric, I'm assuming, dam, there is a tunnel, but what is the end goal of this whole scheme?
Right. Yes, I think some of that stuff is a little hard to follow, and I'm sure upon rewatch, some of those details would make more sense as they're being rapid fire spit at us.
Yeah.
What I did like, though, is that in the journey of the thing, you see the bits and pieces, and then at the end, with that huge diorama.
Yeah.
So I kind of was
I
like,
love
okay,
a diorama.
yeah,
And
dioramas are great.
It's Wes. He's got to have some miniatures somewhere. Which I'm pretty sure also with the planes, that was...
Yes, yeah. So it was like, okay, we'll leave them in the dark on the fullness of what this is. And then even in the end, it's not like an actual representation of what it is. It's more like a spiritual representation. Like,
yeah.
And I kind of thought that was a funny, intentional or not, kind of a funny play on, billionaires and their business plans kind of a thing. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it doesn't fully make sense, this whole Phoenician scheme.
Yeah. And like, look at business terminology. A lot of it does not make sense.
Yeah.
I never looked into what all the words meant on Succession, and I don't need to because it doesn't make sense.
Well, when you can settle something with, a game of horse.
Yeah.
It's all nonsense anyway. Like nothing meant anything. All that meant anything was one-upping each other. That's all. And what was the line? If you can do it to someone. Oh no, seeing who could lick who, right?
Yes, I'm like, what? What does that even mean?
And that it all just boils down to, all of these things. It's just who can beat who can be better than someone else. And throughout the whole movie, Jaja proves that, he can convince people to do things, and he can lick them, and I really, really appreciated Mia Thrippleton.
Threple? It's an A and an E. I'm not sure. Her mom is
Kate Winslet,
which is wild, but like, I do not mind a Nepo baby if they can actually act. And she could actually act. She put on a great performance.
Yeah, I thought that she was great. She really saved the movie for me, and I was very interested in her. I love all of the Catholicism stuff throughout this. I thought it was very funny.
And how she does, like, she has the simple rosary and she gets given a fancy one, and then she uses the fancy one. So her, like, materialism that the Mother Superior, I guess, is that nun? I was raised Catholic. I know the things that she points out, like, is present and building throughout the film.
Oh, for sure. I mean, she's like wearing makeup through the whole thing. She's wearing like green tights.
Yeah.
So it's like somewhat subtle if anyone who's not Catholic were watching this, they probably wouldn't even really notice.
Yeah.
But she is like adorning herself.
And the collection of books where she's like, these are all blasphemous.
Mhm.
Or these are all bad, but I'm picking up blasphemy and gauche. And I'm like, good for her. Well, I don't know what is in there, but she's like, it speaks to me.
Yeah, I really liked her. I thought she did a good job, and she really fit into this. Now, every time Wes Anderson comes out with a new movie, you hear the same thing, which people will say it's the most Wes Anderson-y movie of all, and that might be true. Think there might be a slight ramping up of this style and leaning into it. Personally, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I don't understand the people who get mad every 3 years.
I love the like bits of absurdism he has, like this absurdism in this formalistic thing. I love that contrast. I'm like, this movie, I loved this world where people give each other hand grenades as a social nicety. And like, it seems like other people are confused by it, but then his brother is like, oh, I have my own already.
Yeah.
So it's like a thing in the Corda family, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the dialogue, I think, is the most unnatural that we've seen to this point.
Yeah.
It's no one in this movie talks like how people talk.
Yeah.
Except for maybe Jeffrey Wright, who's a coked up boat captain. As far as I can tell.
I love seeing Jeffrey Wright. He is such a good addition to this cast of players Wes has.
Yeah, and he did something different. He really did something different than from what we've seen before. And Jeffrey Wright is one of those guys who, yes, of course, he's great at drama, but he knows what's funny.
Yeah.
And he knows how to be funny. And I was laughing at just pretty much everything.
And he has such a great, when he speaks fast, it's with such a great cadence.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Michael Cera plays Bjorn.
/ Agent Carlson.
How did you feel about Michael Cera?
Really enjoyed him. So like I enjoy insects, so I was like, I vibe with his character. And I liked that he got to like lean into the silliness of the accent. But then I also loved that he got the take your glasses off and suddenly, whoa, they're hot now.
Right.
That is rare for a male character to have that kind of scene, and I loved seeing that. And then he said he was from Wilmington, Delaware, which I went to school at the University of Delaware, so I did the whole Leo Point thing at that moment. Cool. I'm like, that's the next town over. Oh my gosh. And that I liked his character motivations. He's like, I'm sabotaging your business. I haven't been told to kill, so I'm keeping you alive. That he like had a specific code he was sticking to. I just enjoyed his whole character.
Yeah, I thought he was very funny. More so as Bjorn. I thought that his quiet moments. I liked everything that you're saying too. I mean, basically, you know, he like basically like pops his collar and he's like, "Hey, I'm a different guy now." That's funny.
Yes.
Partially that's funny coming from Michael Cera, who has played the quieter, put upon character most in our, our collective consciousness. So that's great. There's a few moments where he just kind of like leans into frame from the background. Those all had me dying.
And then, also that's him trying to spy on things.
Right, exactly. Yes. Like the first time around, it might seem kind of weird and out of place. And
Yeah.
even when Bjorn is introduced, he's like over sitting in the corner.
And he's like, hi.
Yeah, Zsa Zsa's like, who is this guy? He's been spying on us this whole time. And he's like, no, I'm just the tutor. And he's like, oh, okay. And just like,
and like
accepts it. But he actually, Bjorn actually was listening in and spying on that whole development.
Also, like, good on Zsa Zsa for, like, using his money to be like, I'm going to be tutored about various subjects. Just pick different tutors. Like, if you're rich, I think that's a decent use of your money. Much better than a lot of other things.
Yes, I like that. And every time we're seeing him on a plane, he's reading some other very, very specific, weird. Yeah.
I turned my head a few times to catch the titles. I think I remember one, but it's like not really remembered, so I can't repeat it. But I remember being like little chuckle at those.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's all of the stuff. It feels like what we assume Wes Anderson himself is reading.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was pretty funny. And then, yeah, like just everything with the bugs, like when he has the bug out at the table, and he's like chastised, and he's like, "Oh, okay," and then just like slowly puts it away. Yeah, I appreciated him. I wasn't super big in, like I said earlier, the whole traveling around, meeting different people. The Tom Hanks and Bryan Cranston thing, I just wasn't into it. I was like, what are we doing? I like the conclusion, where Riz Ahmed's character, Prince Farouk, does a granny shot and wins the whole thing.
Yeah, although I did feel like Riz Ahmed was a bit underused here.
Oh yeah.
Like, it felt like once we were with Tom Hanks and Bryan Cranston, they were in control of the scene, and so Riz Ahmed only got like a minute or so to be in that spot, and I'm like, I want to see more Riz Ahmed in a Wes Anderson film, and
absolutely.
I wish he had gotten a bit more to shine. And even when, like, at the signing scene, he's standing behind his father, so like we just see him in passing there. I did love the use of Richard Ayoade.
I agree. Their whole communist revolutionary,
and the like Catholic reliquary in the back of the plane.
So there were two times where I would describe it as a guffaw laughed, just like out loud, like. The first time was when the first assistant just blows up in the airplane, because it happens very early on. It is very shocking and very bloody and gross. And kind of like
just
you, I was
half
like,
torso just sitting there.
Yeah, I was like, okay, they're going for it. In this one, like right away. And then the second time was when Liesel says like, "Oh, you're not atheists?" And he says, "Of course we are." but some of us like to pretend. And then it cuts to this like full on like
I think
shrine.
Yeah, that's like shrine. I think it's kind of a monstrance as well, which they like. There's a thing that you like keep the communion in church, and it's like looks like a little house that opens doors. So it looked like it might have been one of those too.
Right.
But it's just
great
kneeling down.
Yeah, you can see a version of that joke where, he's like, some of us are pretending, and you cut and someone is there like just praying and they look up, or someone has a rosary. And I wondered if they just like kept going like, well, more.
Just Wes and Roman Coppola, like.
Yeah. That I thought was like, second funniest part of the movie.
Yeah. And that they're promising that like, oh, what we're stealing from you will go to good causes, we promise.
Now throughout the movie we keep cutting to the afterlife.
Yeah.
We're going to black and white. and any character that is represented in a different time
Yes.
than they are in the film.
Yes.
So when we see Liesel, she's a little girl.
Yes.
And when we see
has...
Zsa, he's got like a huge beard.
Yes. So I'm not sure if he's younger or older, but it's definitely a different time in his life.
Yeah.
And this is where we see Willem Dafoe, Bill Murray as God. Willem seems to be kind of like the lawyer-ish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I watched
Charlotte Gainsbourg. Yeah. As well.
I watched a video from Carson Runquist, who pointed out that this is very much inspired by A Matter of Life and Death from Powell and Pressburger, which I've not seen, but it has a like afterlife trial situation. But I also was getting like, I think this is the black and white largely, but Seventh Seal vibes, and I was also getting Passion of Joan of Arc vibes from those sequences.
Yeah, and we're doing like slight German expression architecture.
Yes.
You can tell what they're kind of pointing back to, but they're also having fun with it.
Yeah.
These are not necessarily the moments where the movie stops to tell you about how serious it is or really what's at stake. They're almost all mostly comical, which I appreciate.
Wouldn't you be confused if every time you like almost died, suddenly you end up in a white void with your grandma who doesn't know who you are?
Right. Yeah, I thought that those parts were great, and I almost wish that we had more of them or just spent a little bit more time with them. But if it is just a little aside, I understand why. But I thought Bill Murray as God was very funny,
and I always love seeing Willem. Yep. He didn't really speak much, but just his face. He does great things with his face always.
Yep. Now, this is where the movie just loses me. Yeah. Well, okay, I guess we should mention Matthew Amalric as Marseille Bob. He's a club owner.
Yes.
He's fine. He's funny and good as always. Yeah. He's always doing good work.
But then
Scarlett Johansson felt the most wasted.
Yeah, like she had her little like utopian militia of children, but like she was just too flat.
Yeah, definitely.
Like especially I guess she was meant to be, but like it felt like she felt kind of out of place in the world with how flat she was.
Yes. The other people that he goes to meet with, it's much more lively and vibrant and interesting and weird. And then you meet her and they're like, I don't know, you have a braid on your head. Like,
like all the other people felt like, okay, they're larger than life. They have this charisma behind them that it makes sense why they are in these positions of power. Yeah. And not that Scarlett Johansson can't do that, because she can, but her character just didn't have any of that.
No, I mean, and I don't think that they wrote much. Yeah. And it's almost like, well, her segment is also, I think, the shortest of any of them.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't know. That I wasn't in love with it. I like Scarlett. Yeah. She's a great actor, but yeah, this part was kind of boring. But then we come to the end and we finally meet Uncle Newbar,
Benedict Cumberbatch,
just wearing the worst beard and eyebrows and hair. Like, I can't begin to understand the decisions behind this hair. And it really made me just be like, what is this movie? Like, what are we doing? Now, It did remind me a little bit of Charlie Chaplin films. Okay, I can't remember which one it is, but there's one that has some nefarious looking dudes with like very pointed beards and the big eyebrows.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work. Like that just doesn't work today with today's cameras. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Am I crazy?
Like, I didn't have that, like, reaction to it, but I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand why they did it that way. And it just took me out of his whole character. Like,
Yeah.
it was like he might as well have been wearing like a clown nose to me. It's like, oh yeah, here's this guy. But anyway, what did you think of him?
Like, I felt like we didn't quite get enough about, like, we know he's his half brother, and we heard of how Zsa Zsa was raised, but we didn't hear about that half brother in the context of how he was raised, and we didn't get any context of how that half brother was raised. And I felt like we knew what their relationship was as adults, but I feel like knowing what it was as children, like at all, anything, would have been nice to just give a little more depth to that. Like, it didn't have to be like a scene, but like just something mentioned about like, oh, a game we played as children or something.
Yeah.
Just a line. Because he felt very distant from the family, which like works as a villain, but also I felt like maybe he could have been a better villain if he had a connection that we knew about with the family that we know was ruptured.
They're doing the very, very close Fantastic Mr. Fox conversations when we get to Zsa Zsa and Nubar fighting and everything.
With the ampule of smoke.
I did kind of think that was funny, but
yeah, that it bounced. I loved that it bounced.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, by the time we get to him, I was like, I'm ready. I'm done. I've been here now.
He was the villain throughout the film, but could it have? I don't know. It would take a lot of rewriting, but to make it more known that we were catching glimpses of him without knowing that that's who it was.
Yeah.
Or just
the
because it felt kind of tacked on.
Of that. Yeah, their version of that is, every time these assassins have come, Zsa Zsa has said,
you used to work for me. You used to work for me.
Hey, wait, this guy looks familiar. I think I recognize this guy. And then come to find out it's because it's his brother who's sending all these people who know him and are close to him to kill him. So it does like tie up nicely, but in a way that, like you said, it feels a bit tacked on.
Yeah. Like that could have been anyone who knew Zsa Zsa. Like, it didn't point specifically to his brother. And like the whole murder stuff did, but not that would also motivate him to kill Zsa Zsa as well.
Yeah, it was not wonderful, but that's okay. Whatever. So then we get the ending is that he covers all of the deficit himself.
Yeah.
But loses everything in the process. And then just opens a restaurant.
Yeah. Which, like, I feel like he's probably going to be happier because he's connecting with his family now versus all these business people. But also, like, there's a rhythm to that life that, like, having this, like, rich family, like the Tenenbaums were as well, allows for, like, these rhythms that you can develop because you're rich and don't have to go to a job every day. That lean into like some of that absurdist formalism that Wes has. And so the opening restaurant, like, even though you can still see hints of that absurdist formalism peeking through, it felt like I don't know that they kind of got booted from the Wes Anderson world at the end there.
Right. Yeah, you can't be. It's hard to be poor and eccentric.
Yes,
It's much
exactly.
easier to be rich and eccentric.
Yes. And I wonder, to fill the gap, did they use the arsonist to burn down the house for insurance
Right.
purposes?
Right. Yeah, that was the only part of it where I was like, I don't know about this because it's really hard for rich people to not be rich anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. But you know what? Whatever.
Um, and then one thing I noticed in the credits, they also credit all the artworks that are shown throughout the film,
Yes.
which I
Yes.
was like, ooh, this is something different.
Yes, that was very cool. And I always like when people do credits a little bit different. So these were like side scrolling
Yeah.
credits, which I thought was cool.
Yes.
When I was younger, I thought, oh, it must be like, the law that you have to list things on a black screen with white text and it has to move at a certain speed because
Yeah.
everyone does it that way that you think
Yes.
like there's got to be some rules about this, right? And then when people break away from that, I always, yeah, it's just a stupid little thing, but it makes me think, why don't more people do this? Like,
Yeah. And like
yeah,
I mostly see like breakaway from credits like that form at the beginning of credits and then it goes into the standard form,
right,
not like sticking to the bit and doing
right,
something different with it.
yeah, completely unrelated, but I'll never forget the opening credits for Tar. When I saw Tar in the theater, and you
I have
just
not
get this.
seen Tar.
Oh, I'll leave it. I'll leave it alone. But I'll just say, like, it's an inspired way of doing opening credits, and
Yeah.
it's not. I like you might watch it and be like, this isn't really anything special, but it's just like a little touch to make it
Yeah.
interesting.
I've
And
been seeing that I've been watching the Coen brothers movies and
mm,
even like Intolerable Cruelty, which I don't think is very good, has a great opening credits where it's like animated like early 1900s greeting cards. And I'm like,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
more of this, please.
Yeah. I mean, the one I always think of, and it's because it's a movie that completely took me by surprise, and I had never heard of it when we saw it, but it was Napoleon Dynamite,
Mm-hmm.
which is, the opening credits are all overhead shots of items that are
Yeah.
giving you the credits. It's so simple, but it's very memorable. And anyway, the credits of the Phoenician Scheme are
Yes.
cool.
Yes, they are. They are.
Is there anything that we didn't mention that you wanted to talk about?
The slow mo opening shot, or not the opening shot, but after the opening scene, the opening title shot, where they're all moving slow mo, overhead shot, bathroom.
Oh, yes.
I really enjoyed that. And even like the flashing colors at the end reminded me of film tinting and silent film,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool.
Yep.
I love that they put the champagne in the bidet.
Mm-hmm.
And I love a good like weird camera angle shot. Um like I go wild for like when the floor goes clear, which doesn't happen often.
Yes. Yeah.
But like the challengers did that, I was going to say, but I love weird camera angles like that.
Yeah, this opening, it's very cool. And at first you're like, oh, okay, haha. And then just the amount of movement and
Yes.
people coming in and out and moving things, that that's all orchestrated. Like
Yes.
they're not like, oh, just do whatever. And it's all for this guy who's literally just like sitting in a tub. And
Yes.
I thought that was a good visual to sit with,
Mm-hmm.
over the course of the credits of all of the flurry of activity that surrounds these
These idle
you know
rich.
supposed great men and
Yes. The amount of work that goes into keeping their lives going because they aren't doing labor.
right. I did find it very, very, very funny that the entire plot is set into motion because the cost of a rivet is
Yes.
unnaturally inflated.
That boardroom and the rotating pans in that boardroom, how they'll close the blinds to show one thing on the projector and then open the blinds again.
Yep. And there's a mention of, bureaucracy towards the end, and it cuts to them.
Yes.
I thought, yeah, that was pretty
like
great.
this cabal that's controlling the price of rivets across the world.
Yes.
And
yeah,
then he has
like,
a ticker for the price of rivets as well.
Right. So yeah, it's like it's as close to making the joke of like your whole plot hinges on hinges that you can get. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Like, the whole plot hinging on hinges wouldn't make sense in the context of the Phoenician Scheme, but rivets works.
Right, exactly. So it's like, what's the closest to that? So
yes.
I was like, that is very funny, and it's such a small, teeny little nothing that sets all of this into motion. And yeah. I thought that was pretty great. For me, like I said, I didn't love this one. I'm curious if our current state of the world is coloring my ability to enjoy it. We'll see in a little bit. Maybe in 10 years I'll revisit and say, oh, actually this is really funny.
Yeah. Like, I had a good time. I went to see it with friends. We had ramen afterwards because there's a ramen place right next to the theater.
That's pretty great.
I had a good time with it, and that's like, and I don't think Wes Anderson has ever made a bad movie, and I think it would be hard for him to at this point.
Yeah, I have a very far outlier of his movies that's my least favorite, which I will not say here because it would get me in trouble. I'll tell you later.
Okay. Because I am curious.
But beyond that, no, I like his style. I like his thing. I think it's very funny.
I love that he has a recurring cast. And his sets sound very fun to be on. He sounds great to work with.
Yeah, he doesn't pay people. I don't know if you know this. They are all paid like the minimum. I shouldn't say all,
minimum scale.
They have talked about Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks. They've said, like, we go and do it because it's fun.
Yeah.
We want to work with him. They don't get paid like anything for the amount of time that they're there. And he keeps all of his budgets very, very low.
Yeah. Which allows him to do all the stuff he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, I heard a story from Maya Hawke that she had like an additional scene in Asteroid City because she was like, I don't want to leave. And he's like, you want to stay more? And she's like, yeah.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, that's great. I think there's a lot to complain about and point fingers at in modern movie making.
Yes.
But you have a guy who people want to work with. His movies are enjoyable.
He makes these beautiful dollhouses of films. He's one of the few directors who's actually using miniatures, which I think we need more miniatures in film. What are we doing not using miniatures?
I mean, this whole show is based on, an appreciation for practical effects.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know. I think
if you're gonna point fingers in modern cinema, West isn't the most productive place to point them.
No. Way down the line.
Yeah.
And hey, I look forward to whatever he comes up with next.
Yes.
How I explained this one to my wife was, I said, if Wes is going to continue on this style and he's going to continue on this path and he's not going to deviate from it, then I take it like each movie is a different season of a TV show, an anthology show.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like this season.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that the whole show sucks. I didn't really care for this detour in the story, but it was still still good.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Aidan, thank you so much.
I had a great time. I always love talking about movies.
All right. Very cool. Where can people find you online?
I am Aidan Kedz. It's AIDANKEDZ on Letterboxd, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, and also on Substack. I write monthly articles about underseen films I watched in the previous month. So like under 50,000 logs on Letterboxd, and talk about the context of those films and why you should see them.
Very cool. All right. And we'll be sure to put a link there in the show notes. So if you're listening and you're not like, wow, I want to beat up this Aidan person, be sure to check it out. Also, if you don't want to beat me up, we'd love it if you give us a rating and a review wherever you are listening. Hey, you know what? It helps the show, and it doesn't cost you anything. All you got to do is take that thumb of yours, move it like half an inch, and just do some tapping. All right? You can do it right now as I'm talking. Just get those fingers tapping.
Give the podcast a little walking around rating.
That's right. That's right. Come on. Gosh darn it. You can also send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought about the Phoenician Scheme. Let us know what you think about Wes Anderson, rivets, whatever, Benedict Cumberbatch's facial hair. Please explain it to me. Give me some context, because I am totally lost. You can also support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. $5 a month gets you access to all of our additional episodes and series, ad-free episodes. You get added to our patron-only Discord. You get to vote on upcoming movies and monthly themes. Oh my gosh, there's so much stuff and more being added every day is not true, but, occasionally. Again, that's patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. All right, Aidan, thank you so much. I really had a blast talking about this with you.
I had a great time. Bye.
Hey, and thank you very much for listening. Until next time, have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Theme music by Jean Marie Vargas. Visit us at our website, moviefriendspodcast.com, and please subscribe and rate our show wherever you are listening. You can support Movie Friends at patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. Thanks for listening.